Thank God this show is called Better Assholes, because if it was called something else, I think we'd get, a little bit more scrutiny about what we talk about sometimes. As you've noticed, we're not like, I guess, a channel or a podcast that discusses one thing and one thing religiously. So I think, you know, we're probably along the lines of maybe that new trend that you're seeing, and that's kind of people off the top of their head with ideas. Like, I mean, maybe not on Spotify or some of these other podcasters where apparently they're paying them multi millions of dollars, and you have a whole team. They're just using your name, uh, and really, here's your script, and here you go, and heavily edited, heavily scripted, but you're making a lot of money here. As I've mentioned before, there's no script, there's no real intention of anybody paying me multiple millions of dollars to just talk. But if you are willing to pay me multi millions of dollars to talk, I am completely up for it. And I mean, shit, I'll tell you right away, I'll completely sell out and read a script for multi millions of dollars in a nice studio. I mean, I'm not above that, at this point, fuck it. There's a lot of stuff right now. Uh, I'd be, at almost borderline male prostitute just for the sake of, you know, getting out of the whole grind. And when I mean grind, I think nowadays everything is such a grind. As you've listened to my last recording, just trying to get dinner from a fucking restaurant is a grind these days. It's fucking killer. I think a lot of people, I mean, hopefully a lot of people, I know me, I think given the chance, I'm not too sure if I would take my multiple millions, move right smack downtown, buy a fancy car, and love that type of life. Part of it is just going to an island somewhere and not having to deal with a lot of the shit. But then again, is it worthwhile? And when I say worthwhile, I mean the relaxation's nice, but is being in the middle of nowhere good or bad? And sometimes it's a bad thing. Maybe we'll discuss it some other point because we've lost the principal topic right now, which is me being an asshole and why people think I'm an asshole. Okay, hold on. Let's kind of rephrase this whole thing. So here's what happened. Now, LA, as you know, is burning down. There's a bunch of wildfires that are raging on. And I guess maybe some are natural, some are set by arsonists, right? And it's funny to see some of the ridiculous articles on, CNN. I'll go to CNN or MSNBC. Why? Because if I mention a CNN article, then it changes the game. Because as soon as I mentioned, if I said, well, Fox News said this, everybody would say, well, they're conservatives. Oh my God, they're alt-right. Oh my God, they're this. Oh my God. And so it's hard to really, you know, get a good amount of people to understand what you're talking about when you use sources that they despise, use sources they like, and then they kind of want to be on that bandwagon as well. So, as we know, there's been mass destruction across LA because of wildfires, man set and, or I should say people set and naturally occurring. Now, most fire departments, especially if you're in a near a wooded area, you usually have preparedness plans. You usually understand, you know, what your responses are. So you would say, well, in the event that, this was to catch on fire, this is what we'd have to do to prevent this. Like a lot of fire departments now that have, wooded areas in their jurisdiction, they go and they clean them up. They kind of, I think it's deforest some areas so that what happens is if you can avoid the fallen trees, the dead brush, all the dead leaves, all the stuff on the forest floor that, you know, in the case of droughts and arsonists and stuff like that, you're not going to create basically a big wildfire condition. So a lot of countries, they know how to, get in there and really clean up their forests so they reduce this risk. And Canada is well known for doing this when they have conservative governments in their provinces. Otherwise, you have a lot of the liberals that let things burn just so they can say, look at that, it's some racist climate change homophobic event that burnt everything down, right? So it makes no sense. Anyways, so most people are prepared. Most fire departments are prepared. Cities are prepared. Municipalities are prepared. Provinces are prepared. Well, there's state preparedness. Most people are prepared for this type of thing, and then it's about what you do when it happens. Now, if this all confuses you, think back to either your school or your workplace and remember a time where you had a fire drill. Like, I'm serious. This is what this is. It's a fire drill type of situation. So you used to go to school, and every maybe twice a year, they'd do a fire drill, maybe once in the winter, once in the summer. They would prepare you ahead of time. They'd say, once you go outside, here's where we meet up. You hear the buzzer. This grade goes out, this grade goes out, this grade goes out, this grade. Then we go out. You go over there, you stand, you wait for fire trucks, you come back in, drill's done. Right? I mean, I worked at a Fortune 500 company, and same thing. In a high rise. Okay, hey guys, we're in a high rise. Here's a fire drill. We had to actually go from the top floor of a big high rise building to the bottom, through the steps, walk like a quarter of a mile to where everybody was supposed to meet up. And, that was part of this big drill, right? Now, that's called preparedness. They're preparing. So if a fire was to break out in the building, you would be prepared. You say, oh, we've done this already. They put together a plan. We've tested a plan. We went through it. Here's what happened. Yada, yada. Right? And usually at the end of it, they say, okay, nobody died. Thanks for doing this and whatever. Okay. So that's generally how that goes. And usually in those situations, fire trucks are so they don't just do a fire drill and there's no fire trucks. There's actually usually fire trucks that come. And so what they do is the drill tests, the building management, it tests the residents, the patrons, everybody in the building, management, and the firefighters have to come, and they all have a plan and preparedness, and they've run through it and they know what's going on. Now imagine in LA, nobody at any point has said, hey, let's come up with a plan. Let's get prepared. Right? Because I mean, they said, and we're not making this up, this is actually multiple fire personnel, fire chiefs, fire departments that have said this. It's right across the media, whether it's liberal media, conservative media, right in the middle media, international media. So a lot of the fire hydrants were dry. The reservoir wasn't filled. Fire hydrants were dry. Firefighters were hooking up hoses to the hydrants and no water was coming out. When I was watching TV last night, when I was watching the news, they were showing, and I believe it was CNN, showing people putting their hoses from their houses into the fire truck to fill the fire truck so the fire truck could fight the fire on their homes because there was no water inside the fire truck and there's no water in the hydrant and people are losing their houses. This is insane. It's absolutely insane. And it's not, I think the big turning point for this is the fact that we're talking about a lot of Hollywood elite, a lot of celebrities, a lot of, whether it's movie stars and actors or, whatever, TV stars, musicians, whatever. A lot of these people, artists, they're losing their homes, they're losing their art, they're losing their history, the city's losing its history, and they know what the problem is. We all know what the problem is. That's the scary part. Really, there's two parts to the problem, or maybe three parts. Part of it is that it's the budget, the preparedness, right? The response, that whole fire fighting aspect of it. But you say, well, budget. Okay. Understandably, you have to look at one thing is the city, the mayor has a fault. And you saw by the mayor's response, she shouldn't be there. She should be charged, locked up. She's partly responsible. Period. That response, even if she had any sort of response that made sense, maybe. No response that made any sense. Okay? The governor, he should be locked up because on a macro scale, he should understand what's going on. He should know what's going on. Listen, ultimately, the fire department, I think the fire department is the biggest at blame, that they don't want to really mention it, but they're the worst, because part of the problem is it's not that you have reservoirs that are empty that are part of the problem of the state or the city, or your budget is below what you needed as part of the city. Like, they're saying they needed mechanics. They say some of the stuff doesn't work. They're unable to hire the right people to get things done, and blah blah blah. But the funny part about it is they put the big focus on diversity. Now, this goes back to me being the asshole here. The last video wasn't too popular, and the reason for that is because it just mentioned the fact that DEI was to blame, and the fact that out of every possible people, out of a state of so many people, out of a city of so many people, are you telling me the only people that you can find for your fire department, such an essential service, is you can only find lesbians, women and lesbians? Is this crazy or what? The amount of 100-pound women that I saw, and I mean, this has nothing to do with being anti-women at all, right? It's practicality, right? I've never in my life, I've heard about, I thought it was, when I see these shows on TV, I laugh. My wife and I, we laugh, right? Most people I know in life, we've laughed. We've laughed at this. We watch it on TV and we go, there's no way in hell that a police department or a fire department is hiring 5'2", 100-pound women to be firefighters. We just say, I know that's not reality, but it's true in LA, right? The whole fire department that was more, they were more interested in shouting, hey, we're diverse lesbians, than they were at saying, hey, we can fight fires. So part of the problem here, and it's not a we don't like people problem, or we're against certain people, or we're not nice people. The problem is that you put your faith in people to do their jobs. So if I hired a fire captain, I would expect them to understand how to be prepared for a fire of this magnitude, to make plans, to have a disaster plan, to understand, to hire the right people, to really understand what's at stake. It's like you hired somebody that watched TV, they watched a Disney movie, and they said, "Hey, you know what? That's what I'm gonna do. I'm such a strong lesbian. I could do that because I saw somebody on TV do that on the Disney Channel, where everybody's diverse and can do this stuff." And so they went out and got a job, and the first time they had to do anything, they failed. And we've seen this happen amongst pretty much every, DEI hire, they fail. The reason for that is that when you hire people that don't really have qualifications to do anything. So I'm sure, I hate to say it, I hate to be that guy, and it makes me, of course, sound like an asshole. But listen, I am sure, I am almost 100% sure that every single one of the people involved in this fire, in this administration of this fire department and the failure of putting out these fires, I'm almost 100% sure that every single one of these people had a better replacement that could have been assigned to do their job. However, these people were not picked on the fact that they were, good at their job. They excelled. They were capable. They were just chosen because they marked the boxes. Now, I'll tell you something. I'm a diverse person myself. So this makes it very difficult because people will tell me, I've been told before about my opinion not mattering and blah 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 blah. And to be honest, I think most people don't really have a leg to stand on, right? Because I'm usually more diverse than all the butch lesbians that are upset at me and whatever other, woke white women and whatnot that are upset with what I have to say most of the time. When you look at it, you know, it's not a problem of hiring men, hiring women, hiring people of a certain race, a certain religion, or whatever, right? And this goes back to maybe America and Canada and every other country, maybe the year 2000 and before. And while a lot of people like to whine about equality, I guess at that time, I mean, if you look at things, it wasn't too bad. I think we've managed to whitewash a lot of history. We've managed to lie to ourselves to make it seem like we had a horrible 20 years ago was such a horrible time. It was nothing but Nazis and crazy people killing everybody and oppression and whatever. But I feel more oppressed now that when I go online, I can't say certain things, or oppressed that when I watch TV, the people that regulate the TV, for the country or whatever, people that regulate, what I see on TV are saying that in order for them to broadcast, an episode of whatever, or Netflix or Hulu or whoever, Disney saying, we won't air a show, or we won't let you produce a show. We won't have a show on our network made in 2025 that doesn't have gay characters, multinational characters, characters of color, transgender characters, gender swap characters, race swap like this is it. So now everything kind of sucks because you can't have, a show based in medieval Scotland without having a bunch of people that weren't there and people that were doing stuff that they weren't doing. It's just ridiculous, right? It doesn't go to, complaining about, this stuff in general. It's not complaining about, you know, how we're making things diverse and in what way. It's really complaining, not even complaining, but more of a discussion about how we just put this emphasis and it's not working. It just doesn't work. It makes things suck. And if you go back, I mean, even in the 80s, right, there were strong female leads, there were, there were gay people, there were, people of different cultures and different minorities, I mean, different religions. It was great, but people had thick skin. We didn't have to bend over backwards. You were able to express yourself. People were able to express themselves. We had comedy. We understand. People were smarter. People were brighter. People were educated. Now people are dumb. They sit on cell phones like idiots, looking at Instagram, hoping that they'll become something, right? It's just ridiculous, right? And this is where we are. This is why we have all these fires, all these celebrities. They voted for this type of crap. You voted for liberals. And the problem was that most of Hollywood, they pretend that they're ultra liberal. If you're sitting there, you're raking in your money. Most of these guys, men and women, are raking in their money, putting in their pocket, buying yachts, buying planes, buying cars. You're telling me that when you have 100 cars in your garage, and you have a garage that can hold 100 cars, and you have a private jet, a private island, you're going to these different conferences, you have 18 houses, you're telling me that you need to lecture the common folk, you need to lecture somebody with $1,000 car, with $100,000 house, with whatever some of these people have. You have to lecture some poor person somewhere in America or in Canada or whatever. You have to lecture some poor person about climate change, and maybe they're, they're paycheck to paycheck. And you're a celebrity. Taylor Swift is flying around on a private jet, and she's telling you about climate change. And meanwhile, last time you've been on vacation, you took a bus and your vacation was half an hour away. Like, give me a break. So you see what's going on here. Now the celebrities, their house is burnt down, and now they're the ones going, I can't believe I voted for these fucking dumb fucking liberals and Democrats, fucking idiots that let my house burn down. And now they're understanding this fucking DEI stuff because they're going, holy fuck, that was my fire captain. That was my fire chief. That was my administrator. These people let my house burn down because they're fucking unqualified. Are you fucking kidding me? And this is the problem. We don't want to get into the shit, but that's the problem. That's where it is. That's what's happening. And this is reality, right? It shouldn't be happening. We're in a world where we have so many skilled people, so many qualified people. And every time we look around, everything's being destroyed so that we can fit in the lowest of the low quality everything. It's unfucking believable. You know what? Here's to add to low quality. This has nothing to do with fires, but I don't know if you're familiar with Instacart. Instacart is a service for food delivery, for grocery delivery. So the other day, I think it's Friday, we decided to get some. We didn't want to go out. It was snowing a bit. We had a bunch of stuff going on. Busy day. So we ordered Instacart, whatever, $100 worth of groceries or whatever. So the guy comes here to drop it off. And this is crazy because now Instacart's two people now. Things are so bad in Canada that multiple people go on Instacart trips. I've actually even had whole entire 4-person families go out and Instacart stuff for me. It's that bad. And this Instacart person came to my house and pissed. They got out their car and pissed across the street after dropping off my stuff. Incredible. Guys, until next time, you know what? Stay safe. We'll talk about this more.